Hello everyone and welcome to the One Stop Co-op Shop. Today I'm going to be doing a solo play of Flatline. This is a real-time cooperative game that is in the same story or theme as Fuse. So after we've defused all the bombs, we now have to heal all the patients that were on the boats where the bombs were. And we're trying to heal them before something goes wrong. Yes, this is another real-time game. I'm going to be playing it solo. Sorry, Paul, this is not going to be your type of game. Keep watching, though, if you want. If you would like to see how to set up the video, hang out here. Otherwise, check out in the playlist below for the actual playthrough. Still here? Let's get going. The board for this game is similar to puzzle pieces. You can see these little spots here where they are put together. This centerpiece you'll have to put together as well. But once you put it together, then you won't have to put this center part piece together anymore. You can leave it together. You'll still have to take the main board apart. But you'll want to set up your life support system accordingly. Next, you want to take all of the emergency cards, shuffle them up, and have them ready to create a harder game. If only the emergencies weren't there, you wouldn't be having as many problems in this game. But it's because of these, this game is difficult. Here we have all of the patient cards. Now, what you're going to do is you'll shuffle these up and deal a certain amount based on the player count. Now, I'm going to be playing a one-player game. I'm going to be playing on the easiest mode, the training mode. So I'm going to grab 6 of these. But let's look at one just so you guys can see it. So there are a couple things to understand on these specific patient tiles. First of all, if ever you see a one person, that means one person has to place dice on this spot in order to fill it. Now, since I'm playing solo, I'm going to have 2 different colored dice, and so I would have to use the same colored dice to complete this one specific row here. So if I completed this like that, great. For ones that have this, either a 2-player, or maybe this one actually has 2 but potentially a 3rd player, you'll have to use at least 2 different players' dice. So I could do this with the black dice, but then the blue dice would need to be green here and an orange here. Now, if I didn't do that and I completed it all with just the black dice, I would have failed that row. Then I would not have cleared this row off. Also, do you see how these icons are smaller than these ones? That means it's an either or. So when you place a die here, it can be either blue or green. It doesn't have to be both. When you complete one of these patients, if the life support is pointing at one of these 2 green spots, you'll get that specific benefit. This means you could place a clear tile in any other patient, or this one player could roll 1 additional die. Some patients might have a row that has this icon. That means all players must place a die here. So when playing solo, I'll have to place 1 of the black dice here and then 1 of the, oops, that's not blue, 1 of the blue dice. Yes, that is the most difficult part when playing solo, is making sure you do these things correctly with the 2 colored dice. Also, you see these items that are red here? What happens then is that you can, if you completed this patient and the life support was pointing at this red spot, a negative thing would happen. So this adds an additional emergency, and I'm honestly not sure what this means. I think maybe it means you can't re-roll any dice, something like that. But you want to complete patients when they're on green or blank spaces, otherwise negative items can happen. So I've shuffled these up. I'm going to grab 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of these patients since I'm playing on the training mode. The rest can be placed back in the box. Of these 6 patients, I'm going to grab 4 of them and place them out as our current patients that we are trying to heal and get out of the emergency ward. Now I'll have 2 more that are in supply, and these will come out once I complete one of these patients, all of their rows. Now what you'll do is you'll use this. This is your life support system, and you'll have this triangle, which looks a little bit different than these spots. This triangle needs to be pointing at the beginning of one of any of these patients. Because then, if you look at this patient, we're pointing at the last one here. We're pointing at the 3rd one in this one and the 2nd one of this one. And then each round, we're going to move this clockwise 1 space, and now different things would happen if we completed those specific patience rows. There are 2 recharging stations. Each station, we can place dice here and we can get another power supply to help us last another round. Now, depending on how many players, you have to fill this box up. Since I'm playing with 1 player, I don't have to do any of these 3. I just need to do these top 3. And I'll have to place a green cube here. Now, there's another one I'm not showing you. There's 2 of them on the board. So that means 2 times we can grab another power supply if we need to. On this spot of the board, we'll have to place our power meter. Now, there are ones for all player counts from 1 to 5, and with a 1-player game, you use the same one as a 2. That's why it's there. And they also have a harder version, which we are not doing, and an easier version, just in case you don't feel like you're having enough of a challenge. We'll fill these up with power cubes. And so now, hopefully it makes sense why we might go to that recharging station, because each round we're going to take off one of these power cubes, and if we take off that last power cube, it has a skull on it. That means we have lost the game. There we go. So there's our full power supply. This power supply has numbers here, and these numbers denote what you are going to be drawing from the emergency deck, how many cards. So we'll start with 5, then 3, then 2, then 3, then 4, then 3, then 2, and then we lose. This is where we want to strategically think about when we want to go to the power stations and recharge, because we'll probably want to recharge when we're at the 2 levels, not when we're at the 5 level, because that's going to just pull out more and more emergencies. For a 1-player game, you're going to grab 2 sets of dice. Now, there's a total of 8 dice in each stack. In a 1 or a 2-player game, you're only going to be using initially 7 dice from each set. But there's going to be ways where you might be able to roll an additional die for 1 round, and so then we can add these back. But to start with, 7 dice of each color. And hopefully these colors are going to be different enough. You also want to get your emergency dice together, and you're going to learn to hate those dice. I don't like the white dice. There are a couple spots on the board that I want to make sure you're aware of. The first is the re-roll area. So we can place one of our dice in this spot, and we can have 1 player re-roll as many dice as they want. We can do that in a 1-player game 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. But in a 5-player game, you can only do it 3 times because, of course, there's more dice out. That's one of the ways it scales. This blue section here is where we're going to have emergencies appear. Now, as long as they're in a blue emergency, which will look like this, if I can find one. Oh my goodness, here we go. A blue emergency will look like this, and they'll match. You see this bottom part of the card? You'll place them here, and then what we'll do is we'll roll the emergency dice, and if there's any cards in these locations, they will activate. We can have up to 2 rows of emergencies. So you could have 2 cards go off because of the emergency dice. Down here, this shows how you can eliminate the card. I can put 3 of any dice, and then at the end of that round, I can get rid of this emergency. Any emergency that has an orange bottom immediately comes over to the stat area. This is the scary area, because if there are cards left here at the end of the stat area, at the end of a round, they get flipped over and become red. And if you have too many red cards, you lose the game. So these are stats. You need to do them immediately. But what you do is you'll see like this card to be resolved, you have to use 3 dice. But the nice thing is once you do that, they move over to the green side and they'll become a benefit for us. We can place any of the green cards over here once they're resolved, and then we can at any point use this benefit and discard the card, and usually those are really helpful. So although you have to spend time getting those stat cards taken care of, you also get awesome benefits for doing it. You can never have more than 4, so there's 4 spots for them, so if you have more than 4, you just gotta immediately use some of them. Any of those stat cards that we end up giving up are gonna get flipped over and placed here. I'll start on this side. If we get 4 of those cards here, we lose the game. Now on a 3 to 5 player, if it's only 3 of these cards. So you gotta watch this. Sometimes it might be worth leaving a stat card alone, but other times you gotta take care of them so you don't lose the game. And that is the setup for Flatline. Hope you guys are excited to see this in action. It is a lot of fun. It's 1 minute real time, so you're going to go really fast with some non-real time phases. So it's a quick game, but I would say it's like Fuse 2.0. So it's more complicated than Fuse, which I appreciate, and I hope you guys do too. Thanks so much for watching.